G'day then. G'day, you bloody legends. It is Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with Crannk.com. So tonight, wherever you are in the world, it's a great pleasure that I'm joined by Connor from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania's progressive death thrash force that is Dissentience. Their brand new EP, Kaiju, did drop February 20th. That's been out for 4 days, 3 days over there in the US. It's already stomping their way through speakers everywhere. And I've got to say, this isn't just a monster metal release. This thing feels cinematic and it feels structured. It feels like you're watching a city get leveled in 4 acts, from Mask of Pretense to Empire Anatomy, and now into full-scale apocalyptic storytelling. It feels like Dissentience keeps widening the lens on every release. Connor, mate, cheers for joining me.
Going on, man? Glad to be here.
Absolute bloody pleasure, man. I'm going to dive into Kaiju and some of your other releases, man. But I like to ask this question, man. What's your earliest musical memory? What was that memory that kind of sparked your love of music?
Oh man. Well, I'll give these the two-part answer. So for one, just generally speaking, I grew up in a very musical family. Until he was, oh man, in his 80s, my gramps was trying to play the horn like Miles Davis. My grandmother was from Aruba, so she was super into like dance music and shit. My mom was a disco queen, and my dad was an old school punk rocker, man. Like he was in pits with Henry Rollins and Ian MacKaye and all those dudes in the early days. So I grew up in a very eclectic household, and this sort of leads into the second part. On Sundays, there was always music around, and on Sundays specifically, the family would clean the house. Usually started off with whatever my mom was digging, some Barry White, some Guess Who, some something something along those lines. But then whenever she would go grocery shopping, my dad would throw in what he wanted. And I one day I vividly remember he put on Metallica. I didn't know what Metallica at that point, but it was Metallica. I asked him a couple days later, I'm like, hey, what was that? What was that song? It had like an acoustic intro, and then it gets like kind of heavy, and I didn't know what the song was. And he was like, Fade to Black, and I was like, I don't know. I was too young. I was probably 5 or 6 at this point. I was like, I don't know. So he gets the CD for me. I had like a little Sony Walkman. Prior to that, it was just some like, now that's what I call music 17 or whatever the fuck I was listening to. But I popped in the CD and that was it. It was the first song. It wasn't Fade to Black. It was Fight Fire with Fire that really like got me going. And I remember vividly like I didn't even know the word headbanging at that point, but my head started bobbing and I'm just like, oh my God, like I don't know what this is. I don't know what I again, 5, 6 years old, man. I couldn't differentiate between shit. But that moment of just like whatever this is, this visceral reaction that I'm having, I want more of it. And later on when I started playing music, it
Yeah.
became that's what I'm after. Every riff that we write, or at least that I write, is kind of an attempt to give other people that same feeling in some small way.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And how did that lead into when you decided to pick? I suppose it's fairly easy with all that music in the house and everyone playing all these instruments. I dare say was a guitar, but I've been surprised sometimes. I've asked guitarists, and they're like, "Nah, dude, it was drums." What kind of started first for
Yeah.
you in the set? Yeah, there we go.
So, oh man, it was a few things actually. I guess drums technically were first in a very loose sense. I remember having a drum kit as a kid, but never really got super into it. My uncle was actually the drummer in my dad's band. So again, like music always there, and he played, my dad was the singer. So when he stopped, he kind of just stopped. My uncle continued playing drums in other bands when once their band stopped. So I remember him giving me a few lessons, but none of it really stuck. And it was I was a little kid that looked, you know, I looked like Alex Van Halen behind the cocktail kicks. I was so small playing this little kid. And that got tossed somewhere along the lines. But no, I remember it was school band actually. The first real instrument that I played. It was in school band in third grade. Right at the end of the year, they ask you, do you want to be in band? Do you have any interest in it in marching band? And what do you want to play? And I remember vividly, right? This was the this was my Kiss phase, all the entire like year or two that it lasted. Uh, I wrote down I want to play electric bass, specifically electric bass, and I had Gene Simmons makeup drawn next to it, like the icon of Gene Simmons
Yep,
makeup.
yep.
And then second was saxophone, and of course I ended up playing saxophone. They didn't need an electric bass player in a marching band, but it was saxophone, and
Hell yeah.
strangely enough, that led to Jimmy and I, the other guitar player in the band, us meeting because he played sax as well. We went to middle schools across town, but when we went to high school, it was the same high school.
Yep.
And he was like the only other kind of like metalhead kid that I knew. He was wearing Avenged Sevenfold shirts and Anthrax shirts and stuff to band camp. And, at that point, both of us were playing guitar and I was trying to start a band. So when I sort of saw this other kid and, obviously we were in close proximity, we're in the same section, we ended up striking up conversation, shooting the shit, and the rest is history.
Yeah, well, you did kind of start as you were kind of in high school and kind of really got serious kind of out of that as well. What was that period like starting the band as well?
Rough.
Rough. Yeah, dude, it is. But you jumped in there and do it. I was chatting to someone today. It's like anything in life, like fucking when I started all this media shit, it's like you just got to start doing it, dude. There's only so long. If you sit on the sidelines too long thinking about it, you're not going to grow
Yeah.
and fucking evolve and learn as a musician. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It actually Jimmy always reminds me that the first time he came over to practice was the last time for a few months because it ended with me saying, "This kid sucks. We can't have him in the band." No, I mean, listen, we were all kids.
Yeah.
None of us were good. None of us knew really how to be in a band and how to like coexist with other musicians. Because that's the big thing is figuring out how to be in a band. Everybody can learn a song. If you pick up a guitar, a bass, a drum kit, whatever, you can teach yourself to play a song, but to be in a band, you kind of just have to experience it and live that for a little bit.
Yeah.
And for us, that was the big thing. Uh, we were probably 14 and 15 when we first started. We had a few drummers along the way. We recruited Langer, our bass player,
Yeah.
literally
Cool,
just because
Langer.
he was Jimmy's buddy. Yeah. He showed up to practice one day as just Jimmy's friend that was checking things out, and we needed a
Isn't
bass
that how
player. And
all
my dad,
bases, sorry, isn't that how all bases come in, Connor?
every time. I don't know anybody who picks up the bass by choice. Very few anyway. But yeah, and that we kind of wrangled him in because we needed a bass player, and weirdly, my dad was trying to get his band back together at that point. And the bass player of that band's like rig was at the house, so he learned on that because we had it around.
Yep.
Um, and then again, like one thing led to another. Our demo that's on Bandcamp, it says 2014, but that's really a collection of like everything, save for like maybe one or two songs,
Yep.
kind of everything that we wrote together in high school. Because then we met Nick, which was ridiculous. We were looking for a drummer. He lived across the state. He lived like 4 hours away, but he was so fucking good. Like he what did he have? It was a Trivium cover that he had posted online, and we were like, "Oh, that's awesome. Here's a demo that we're working on. One with some really crappy program drums that I did, and here's one without drums. Whenever you get a chance, write something to it, do what you got to do, send it over." And within like 2 days, he sent us over a recorded version that was better than any of the programs. It was tighter, it was more fluid, it was awesome. And we were like, I don't care that he's 4 hours away. We got to get this kid in the band one way or another. And we've kind of kept him locked down since. But yeah, I mean, the high school thing, it was, I also don't think that you get the camaraderie,
Yeah.
trying to put something together, say now, or even just with a lot of people that I've met in the scene since, because we all kind of grew up musically as well as physically together. Jimmy wasn't into and didn't really know about a lot of the bands that we all love when he first joined the band. I didn't know about a lot of the bands that I love today when I first started the band. And to be able to grow together like that, to have those periods of like just being in high school and being excited to like show your friends, like, dude, like look at this album. I bought like Ritual by Black Dahlia Murder by accident, and we all experienced it for the first time because everybody was over for band practice when I put it on the first time. And like you don't get those moments in your 30s because everybody's got day jobs and we're all doing our own thing for the most part other than band practice time. But yeah, it was great. I'm couldn't be happier that we did everything that we did when we did it
Yeah.
because um again, that camaraderie, that brotherhood, that's some shit that's forever when you start at that early.
I know, that's why I wanted to mention, like, because like starting in 2013 from high school and still be rocking the same band and the core members as well is pretty fucking unreal, man. It's good for a band to see, and especially with the growth and the evolution with all of you guys together, with the songwriting, the playing, the everything.
Yeah, yeah. And seriously, it's unbelievable. There's professional level bands that don't have lineups that last as long as this one has, and it's really something special.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can't beat that. You can't beat that.
Yeah, and Kaiju, I'm going to talk about the latest EP now. It has been out for a few days now. How's everything feeling in the camp that it's been out for what, 4 days, 5 days now? How's it feel for you guys as well?
Oh man, I mean, we are. It's a mix of emotions. One, we're all excited that the world gets to hear this now, and it feels like a massive Godzilla-sized weight has been lifted off our shoulders because we've had this thing under wraps for a while.
Yep.
Actually, it's been done for I think a little over a year.
Yep.
But just working things around with the release of everything. We had a few things going on behind the scenes that kind of like push things around. But we've just been sitting on it. Like we had the Masters sometime in 2024, and we're just like, all of our close friends have heard this thing a million times already. But to be able to put it out and officially with the artwork and have people, hitting it on Spotify instead of a shitty Google Drive link, is like, finally, it's official, it's out, the thing is done. And for me, especially, I think that weight is just a teensy bit. It feels a teensy bit lighter now than the rest of the guys, just because uh, we, maybe it's that punk ethos that was instilled in me from growing up, with my dad. But I love keeping everything as DIY as possible, and this
Yep.
one especially, man. Um, I did the album layout. So if you get a CD, like all that is mine outside of the artwork, which was Matt's sticker.
Yep.
Um, Layout was all mine. I printed out and cut and all that kind of good stuff. The lyric sheet. So if you get a CD, I'm stuffing all those things myself. I was cutting patches today because we got a whole bunch of patches. I
Well,
did the
fuck
screen
yeah.
separation. So all of that stuff. We like to be as hands-on as possible in general, like when it comes to finding artists to do our t-shirt designs or working with people to do the album covers. But this one especially has been like a real labor of love, a lot of hours put in, not only doing the work, but also figuring out how to do some of the work.
Yeah.
I've never done screen separations on a t-shirt before myself, but I just picked them up the other day and they look fucking insane.
It's fun learning and growing on involved. You can't beat the physical fucking medium. You mentioned Spotify, but where it's at is getting the physicals, man. Getting that CD or getting a vinyl, going home and blasting. Even if you have to do it digitally, Bandcamp. I've bought 700 odd albums on Bandcamp because I do a lot
Yeah.
of radio. You can't fuck with the quality, man. Like the flat quality, the high quality. Like Spotify's one thing, but to really have that sound coming out at you through the CD or through your vinyl and the headphones, it must be a great fucking listen, man.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I say it every time we have a release come out. Like yeah, getting the masters back means it's done.
Yeah.
But when we get the CDs in, when we get you know, popping that CD in for the first time, that's like, all right, I can I can sit down, I can just listen to this fucking thing. This is for real. This is like holding it in your hands. That's when it's all for real.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm super happy that it's out, and the response so far has been absolutely amazing. I'm waiting. legitimate, and it's not like a blowing smoke thing, but it's like I'm waiting for that first negative review just because it's got to be coming. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
got to be coming, but it's been overwhelmingly positive so far, which I can only be appreciative of. I'm
Yeah,
glad people dig it.
negative reviews, fucking, what do they say about arseholes? Everyone's got a fucking opinion or some shit like that. Like, fuck 'em, dude. I
Hey
can't
man,
handle negative reviews, man. If I don't like something, I just don't fucking talk about it, man. I just won't cover it, man. I don't see the need in ripping down other bands. But this album is an absolute fucking monster of an EP. I hadn't heard of you guys, man. I got the PR for this. I chucked it in. I'm like, fuck, I hadn't got through the first song, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna have a chat to these guys, man. It feels like you've
fuck yeah.
dialed everything in as well, and then going back and then listening to your earlier releases up until now, it's really great to hear this evolution in you guys as well. But it still sounds unmistakably like yous as well from the start to where you are now.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I mean that's one thing that we work with Corey Pierce from God Forbid. He's kind
God
of been a
forbid,
long
yep.
time friend of the band, and he's produced everything that we've done. But I remember working on pre-production with him on Mask of Pretense, and which is our first EP. And one thing that he said that really stuck with me all these years is that put everything that you want to do on your first release, whether even if it's just a little smidge, if it's an inkling of something, if you want to have clean vocals, even if it's just a little thing in the back, put some clean vocals on there. If you want to put blast, put some blast, death metal, thrash metal, whatever, all those influences, because you can always build out from them. And if it's there from the beginning, nobody can sit there and be like, oh, they sold out, or oh, they changed their sound, this and that. And that is really something that stuck with us. And I feel like Kaiju, Empire, and then Kaiju is each one feels like a logical progression of everything. We set out. I think death thrash is probably the best way to describe what we do. But we have a lot of outside influences past that.
Oh
Whether
yeah.
within metal, without outside of metal, that we bring to the table, and we try to put all those on display.
Yeah, so now I'm going to ask about if someone only knew you from the Empire Anatomy, had only heard that album, what do you feel the biggest shift they're going to hear on this EP compared to that?
Um, hmm. I think the biggest shift, I mean, there's a definite maturity in the
Yep.
songwriting that I think the songs in general have just gotten better. One thing that I would say we suffered from, uh, using suffer loosely, I guess, but one thing that we suffered from both on Mask and Empire a little bit is this what I call riff salad, where we have a bunch of cool riffs and we'll string them together one way or another, but maybe they don't necessarily fit together. Maybe the riff is really good, but the song itself falls short a little bit. And especially hindsight being 2020, we're always our biggest critics after the fact. But I think with Kaiju, um, this is actually the first time that all of us have been in the room writing together. When we did Mask, we were all at school or in different locations. So it was a lot of like, okay, let me demo some riffs, send them back and forth. And then pre-production with Corey was actually the first time we all got in a room and jammed those songs. With Empire, Nick and I did a lot of that writing at first. We would sort of jam together because we were in the same spot, but Langer and Jimmy were still at school, and then work through the ideas, send the demos back and forth. We'd get everybody's opinions on things, and it is a big collaborative effort. But then again, same thing. Pre-pro was kind of the first time that we all got together and really jammed them, dissected the songs, all that. With Kaiju, we were all within 20 minutes of each other. So for band practice, it was all four of us in the room. Even if it wasn't even if Jimmy didn't have his guitar on writing riffs, he was still able to kind of play producer and give his input as the song was being written instead of after the fact. And I think that was a really big deal. And
Yeah.
also writing Empire, specifically Clinical Psychosis. That whole song was about uh, like an MK Ultra test patient and kind of like what it would be like to be in that mindset while everything was happening. You get unknowingly dosed with LSD, and you're just on this trip that you didn't ask for. And that actually really came from Langer and I watched documentary called Wormwood, I think, on
Yeah.
Netflix. And we're like, whoa, this would make a cool song. So with that in mind, we wrote the song. But we kept coming back to like every time we got stuck on a riff, we kept coming back to like, okay, well, this is supposed to be like sort of a trippy, like roller coaster ride of a song. The riffs need to reflect that.
Yeah.
And that was the first time we really did that. The lyrics were always kind of an afterthought. We would always write the song, then write the lyrics, and never the two shall meet in between. But with this whole Kaiju EP, we had that set from the get-go.
Yeah.
Jimmy and I sat down, we mapped it all out with 4 songs. We're like, okay, you have like the intro where your monster first appears. You have that the citizen unrest and the kind of world leaders and military leaders around the round table that's in like every Godzilla movie, that scene. Um, the destruction of the city, of course, because that's what everybody's here for. And then you have like the monster either flying away or walking back into the sea or whatever. Um, and we're like, all right, those are our 4 parts. Let's stick with it. And every part of the process, when we got stuck, it was like, okay, well, where are we at in this, metaphorical movie that we're making here? And that really helped us a lot in the writing process. Anytime that we were stuck, we always had that to fall back on. And at the very least, try to give us a little bit of inspiration or a good jumping off point as to what comes next. It wasn't just like, what riff are we going to throw here? Like the riff had to match the intent.
Yeah.
So I think there's a definite maturity of songwriting there, just in terms of, like I said, the intent being there from minute one.
Exactly. I know I'm doing my job right because I got that next question. I was just saying the EP here. Exactly what I got here. It doesn't feel like it's throwing 4 songs thrown together. It has that impact, collapse, annihilation, aftermath. Exactly what you said. And you've hit every single point that I had in there. But what I didn't want to know, is there any ideas that didn't survive because they didn't serve the story?
So not necessarily, but the whole EP kind of started out frankly like a joke.
Yeah.
Um, Nick and I were with our buddy Danny. There's a local drive-in movie theater that's awesome. The Mahoning Drive-in
Still
Theater.
going.
Shout out to
Awesome.
them. Yeah, yeah. They were showing they do everything on film, or at least as much as they can, like 30 or 16 millimeter. And they were doing Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla one night. So we're all sitting there, we're hanging out, we're watching Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, having a few beers. And I was like, man, you got bands like Gojira. I love Gojira. But they used to sound like Godzilla stomping through Tokyo. And now they kind of don't. And you have bands like Mastodon that used to sound like a mastodon stomping their way through the Ice Age. And now they don't. Wouldn't it be fun to just make a band where every song is about a different kaiju monster and it's just meathead riff after meathead riff? Like that's the whole point, is just kids, it's shit that kids can fucking hit each other to. And that didn't survive. We were gonna do kind of like a almost like the SOD of Pennsylvania, put a little super group together with a bunch of our friends, just make one record, not even maybe play one show when it releases. Um, but it didn't stick for too long. Nick and I had a couple riffs, and that's actually those riffs are what became, excuse me, the title track, Kaiju. Um, we started writing in this funky tuning and when we were getting the ideas for what Dissentience wanted to do next, Jimmy actually brought up, he's like, you guys have that Kaiju stuff still, don't you? And we're like, yeah, we do, I guess. We didn't really think that that was anything. Again, it was written in a tuning that we don't really use. It wasn't really written for the band, but at the same time we wrote it. There none of the other people that were we were thinking about having involved with Kaiju if it became a side project.
Yeah.
They weren't involved in the writing of it, so it's not like we had to really like ask permission or there was no weirdness there. So we were like, yeah, fuck it, let's do this. So I would say that the only thing that got scrapped really was just the initial idea of what it was going to be. And we actually tossed that around ourselves. We didn't know if this was going to be sort of the movie in 4 parts, which is what it became, or if we were going to do an EP or an album where like every song was just destruction, every song was a different monster. And like I say, I'm happy with where we went with it. I think that maturity of songwriting uh, is able to shine up through a lot more with the concept idea of the movie in four parts as opposed to every song being destruction,
Yeah.
because then it's just 100 miles an hour all the time, which
Uh,
fun as that is, I like and I think we as a band enjoy that progressive nature that we were able to I hope accomplish with the EP.
well, exactly. Well, Obsidian Tomb is the beginning of the album. It does kind of open with that kind of little somber acoustic tension before everything kind of boom. Is that kind of what you want? What did you want the listeners to feel in those opening moments, or is that kind of hit the nail on the head?
Yeah, no, I mean that hit the nail on the head absolutely. That was actually a last minute addition.
Yep.
Um, I think we had maybe discussed an acoustic intro when we were going through pre-production and writing, but through all the demos that we had and until we hit the studio, we didn't have any acoustic guitars in there. That was like we were sitting in Peach Pie and we knew we wanted something, but we didn't know what. So that all got written like that day, recorded that day, um, and laid down, and that's what you hear on the record, man. And I really enjoy that. I think it's a nice little um, it's I think you put it best. It's somber, but it's also a moment of tension
Yep.
before everything finally breaks and hits, and it's like that monster coming ashore for the first time.
Yeah. I love that how you can have music. Not everything has to be heavy to be fucking heavy, if you know what I mean. Like you have those moments
Oh
that
yeah.
build up, and then when that heaviness hits in, it just fucking makes it even fucking better as well. Then jumping into Chaos Absolute, that feels like, as we were mentioning, it's like the monster isn't even the scariest part anymore. It's the collapse of the fucking systems around it as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially, I don't want to get too into it, but coming out of like the post-pandemic times and
Yeah.
especially in the US with everything that's going on these days, it's hard not to acknowledge that as much as the kaiju concept is literally about giant monsters attacking some fictional city, there is that metaphorical aspect as well that relates back to real life and reality. And that's a crucial scene in just about every Godzilla movie that's out there is the world leaders sitting around the table. You have the US always wants to just fucking nuke the thing out of existence, and Japan's always very reluctant to because they know they've physically, firsthand dealt with the aftermath of all that and et cetera, et cetera. And even with that one, again, like on the musical side of things too, that main riff with its very syncopated, Meshuggah-esque beat to it, we wanted to capture that like militaristic, very regimented feel without just doing a typical like snare march type deal. So yeah, I mean that's again that the intent with writing for a lot of this was what is the feel of the song? What are we trying to do with this? And how do we accomplish that? So I think that kind of mix of the military like or the very syncopated main riff with some of the I mean those thrash riffs though they may be, that's some of the most chaotic riffing I think on the whole album is like the verses and pre-choruses. It's very jarring in a certain way.
Yep.
But then you have those people on the street that are dealing with the aftermath of not only the monster, but then also what the people in the, up high in the towers want to do. So yeah, it's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of everything.
Exactly. I love the way you guys don't kind of lock you are like a death thrash band. You kind of, but just don't lock yourself into that genre as well for the music playing. And we did talk about Kaiju. We don't have to jump into it too much, but Kaiju kind of has a little bit of that Swedish death metal energy into it as well. You know,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I man, the
Solo
Swedish stuff
Trade.
and I got oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's the Swedish stuff and I got to shout out bands like Nails and Black Breath. Like the
Yeah.
really early kind of resurgence of I don't even want to call it old school death metal, but like that HM2 style, like death metal meets hardcore that was
Yep.
emerging in the 2010s. Especially Black Breath is a massive, massive influence on me. And I love that they blend, it's almost like rock and roll and old school punk with the intensity of Swedish death metal and that melodic nature. And that is definitely something that we were trying to capture with Kaiju. It's just, that's the monster attacking the city, so it's got to be full force. Even that brief moment of respite that you get in the middle when you have the guitar break immediately erupts into quite possibly that like the heaviest riff on the album. Definitely my favorite riff to play live, man. That's when the shit hits the fan every time.
Yeah, well, sidetracking. How have you guys played? Got to done a live show? Did you do a live show for this one on release or a release party, or you got some live shows happening
We
at the moment, or what's the live thing looking like for
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
man?
So right now we had a release show lined up. Unfortunately, the venue, uh, I like to think it was the metaphorical Godzilla attacking the venue. The roof caved in a couple
Oh
weeks
no,
before
shit.
the release show was supposed to happen. So um, we're working on rescheduling that right now. But the next show that we have going on is actually opening for Exporter in Jersey in April,
Oh,
which should be
fuck
fucking
yeah,
sick.
perfect. Oh, fuck yeah,
Very,
dude.
very stoked for that.
Yeah,
But
man.
like I said, this thing's been in the can for a while, so we've been playing most, if not all, of the EP live for like the last year or so of
Yeah,
shows.
yeah, yeah,
A
dude.
lot of people that a lot of the people that caught us in the last year sort of got this early teaser live, and man, the response to all the new stuff is just incredible, absolutely incredible. I'm so happy that people are enjoying it.
Oh, damn straight. Ending with Death Shroud instead of another explosive finish is powerful. Why was it important to sit in the aftermath of this art? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like I said, man, that's the proverbial Godzilla walking back into the sea. We
yeah,
wanted this one to just be like, again, you have that somber moment of almost everybody that's still alive crawling out of the wreckage, looking around at this destroyed city, um, and then the monster really just not giving a fuck about what just happened and walking
yeah,
right back home. And I think that's a big metaphor for we all have a sort of giant monster in our lives at some point or another, whatever it may be. And a lot of times, whatever that thing is, doesn't really care how we feel about it being in our lives.
no,
Things come through, they cause a lot of destruction, they give us hell, mentally, physically, whatever it is, and then they're just gone. Whether it's people, whether it's you know disease, whether it's whatever.
disease. Yeah,
These aspects of life come through, man, and you know, ultimately you just kind of have to roll with the punches. The city's still there.
that's
Every
it.
single time, every single time Godzilla comes back, Tokyo's rebuilt, man. So we all just got to be like that.
And
Got to stay strong.
also, I think I had something marked here. It's like the kaiju may lay dormant, but the anguish remains. It's always kind of was that always meant to be the emotional centerpiece for this one as well?
Yeah, I think this song probably more than any of the others was the one that was the most metaphorical.
Yeah,
Again, there's always that synesthesia aspect of the cut and dry story of it all. But yeah, this one especially, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I
no,
think we all went through a lot of nonsense in our personal lives over the last sort of 4 or 5 years as we've been writing this, and this one was just a really cathartic song to get through because it was the final song that we wrote for everything. So we were getting to the end of writing. Um, like I said, I think one way or another, everybody kind of went through some things during this writing process behind the scenes. So it was just a nice way to, you know, put our personal stamp on what is otherwise kind of a fun concept.
yeah,
Um, and I think that was a really important thing for us because I know there's been other bands that work within this giant monster Godzilla concept, whether it be for a song or for their whole shtick as a band, whatever. But so many people focus on the B movie aspect of it. Even a lot of death metal, when it comes to their approach to horror, bands tend to focus on the gore and the B
yep.
movie aspect, and we love that shit. I mean, we wouldn't be at the drive-in watching Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla if we didn't love two dudes in suits knocking the shit out of each other. But
But
at the same time, the best of those movies deal with some real shit.
yeah,
Whether it's the first Godzilla movie or even the last one with -1 was amazing. And I think what made that movie so good, past just the special effects, which were incredible, was the human element to that story actually being a really compelling story. Um, and it was super fun, I gotta say. We had this written before that released, and actually Jimmy, Matt, who runs Peach Pie Sound, and myself all went to go see that in the theater, kind of as homework before this came out. And once we started seeing like the response to that movie, and just it feels like Godzilla's kind of like back in the zeitgeist now. We were like, holy shit, we could not have picked a better topic to write a concept EP about right now. Um, yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting to see that stuff come back around too, because it felt very niche for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, very. Yeah, and I love the way like we're talking about the metaphoric aspect, and now I'm really kind of diving in and ripping that apart in my head as well. But you never name the monster or the city as well, which kind of does keep it timeless, universal, and metaphoric as well, because we're all kind of battling some monster, whether it be disease. I'm in remission from cancer or depression. I know everyone's going through that at the moment with the way the world is. We've all got some sort of monster we're fighting. So if you fucking got something going on, reach out and get someone to help you fight that monster you got going on as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that is Lovecraft is a massive, massive influence, not just on us, but on, so many metal bands. But I think that to me is the coolest part of Lovecraft
Yeah,
and reading his works is that the horror depends on not telling you exactly what's happening.
yep,
Nothing is spelled out. All the narrators are unreliable as hell. So you as the reader have to put in with whatever little inkling that he gives you, you have to create those monsters in your head. When he says Cthulhu is, I forget what the exact description was, but
yeah,
a mass of tentacles, a man's body, this and that. You could give 100 people 100 pieces of paper to draw what they think that looks like, and you'll come up with 100 monsters. And that's what we wanted to create here. I think that in a large part, the uh, kaiju genre is almost the Japanese version of like the Lovecraft mythos,
yeah.
where you have these monsters that represent larger than life things. And yeah, maybe like over time they did get commercialized. Maybe they don't have, some of them don't have the impact metaphorically that other ones do. But that was a very important thing for us to keep in mind. We were like, we don't want to just have people think like, oh, this is about Godzilla. Oh, this is Mothra. Oh, this
Yeah.
is, name any of them,
Yeah,
Well, and again, love them all.
yeah,
I wouldn't be writing this if we didn't. But um having that kind of Lovecraftian element of like, we'll give you some stuff. We'll sprinkle a little bit in, the claws, the teeth, whatever. But we don't want to just tell you this is such and such, or the monster looks like a giant lizard or a giant fucking dung beetle, like it's way cooler and way more in my mind, impactful if the
yeah,
listener has to sit there and try to imagine not only the monster, but the destruction. We're not
yeah.
saying that the monster's crushing people, but how can you listen to a song like Kaiju and not close your eyes and see buildings crashing down, half a leg sticking out from under a giant monster's foot and all that kind of stuff, on top of the metaphorical aspect of applying it to your own life.
Yeah, it's an absolutely ripper. And you did mention as well Corey Pierce, kind of unofficial fifth member or official fifth member, been with you guys from the start as well. But you had Zeuss mix this one as well. And that dude has had his fucking fingers into some insanely fucking great albums.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Brutal stuff, man. Corey's been a long time. Yeah, if you want to call him the unofficial fifth member, I guess that's apropos at certain points. I honestly I think of him a lot more as a mentor
Yep.
than anything. He comes in and he was really the first guy to get the band.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands that we play with, or a lot of bills that we get thrown on, and it's a lot of death metal or a lot of thrash metal. But we, like you said, and a lot of people have said it to us, we sort of fall in this weird gray area of like we sort of sprinkle everything in, plus throw a little bit of doom, a little bit of maybe black metal, a little bit of this, a little of that, and and we just love doing it all. And the first time that we worked with him, he shot us an email and he was like, "Yeah, here's four albums that I want you guys to listen to. If you listen to them already, awesome. If not, give them a listen. But this is like sort of the direction that I see you guys going in." And it was Symbolic by Death, Alien by Strapping Young Lad. There was a Creator record in there.
Dude,
I forget what
what
the fourth one
homework,
was,
mate. Fucking
but
love it.
but the funny thing is, we all listened to it already. Like that's what we were going for, and a lot of those bands hit that note of, I don't know what the fuck to call them. They mix and match the genres. They hop between stuff at will, and I was like, oh, this guy gets it. Before we even had a meeting with him in person, I was like, this guy gets what we're going for, and that was back in probably 2015, 16 at that point that we were working with him. Um, at least like in the earliest stages, and he got it then and still gets it today. It's really fun because our songwriting process now is we'll get everything to the point that we think it's pretty much done, or at the very least as done as we can get it, and then we bring Corey into the fold, for production, for pre-production.
Yeah.
And I think he never tries to push us in a direction that we don't already really want to go in. He just tries to get the best out of us. He's actually, the best way to put it is he's probably just he's like a really good coach. You know, he just wants to get the best out of us. He wants to make the best record because he wants to listen to an awesome fucking record. And kind of comes at it as just a fan of the band. I think we hooked up initially because I sent him our demo, through the God Forbid page after they had broken up, and he contacted me and was just like, "This is fucking killer," like we got to do something together. And he's also the one that gave us the connection to Zeuss.
Yeah.
Him and Zeuss have been longtime buddies, and we were talking about who we wanted to have mix the record. And I think Zeuss ultimately, it was between a few people, but it came down to Zeuss pretty specifically because, like you said, not only has Zeuss worked on a ton of ton of amazing records, but all of them sound different.
Yep.
He has this kind of uncanny ability to
Suffocation, Wednesday
capture.
13, Demon Hunter, just to go from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think when he was mixing ours, it was sandwiched between a Testament record and a Rob Zombie record, if I
Yep.
remember right.
That Rob Zombie one's great.
Um, and it's solid. It's solid. But yeah, he has this uncanny ability to capture exactly what the band wants out of their sound and keep it unique. Because there's too much metal production today that just sounds the same.
Yep.
Whether it's the old school production, the new school, really slick production, a lot of it just sounds the same. It's everybody using the same gear, the same people to mix their shit. And we really wanted to have something that sounded like us, both
Yep.
musically, which, I think we did a pretty good job of hitting that and
Yeah.
refining what we laid down on the last two releases, but also just sonically really coming into our own with this one.
Yeah, and I've got to mention Alan as well. He mastered that. Dude, that guy's worked with some amazing bands as well. You had a pretty cool production team for this one, man.
What hasn't Alan mastered,
Oh,
man? That
dude.
dude is nuts. I don't understand how he sleeps. Every time I look, every record that I get, I look, oh, who mastered this? Alan Duchess or West Side Music. That studio has to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week because
Um,
he's cranking out so much good stuff and killer sounding stuff
so some
every
Aussie
time.
ones as well. Like I was going to mention Dr. Colossus. Like he's got A, B, three through Z. I think he could go. His list is crazy.
Oh my God, yeah, he's probably got one of the craziest pedigrees in music. And again, we've actually used him on the last two releases as well. He's just always a pleasure to work with, always a pleasure to deal with, and frankly, hits it pretty much right on the head from the get. I know him and Zeuss this time were working a little bit more hand in hand just to make sure that the mix and master meshed well together, and I'm super happy with how everything turned out.
Yeah, it's an absolutely ripping album. Everybody needs to go out and grab Kaiju. It is out now. It did drop 20th of February, as I mentioned. It is on Spotify, but you can go over Bandcamp, buy it, go grab some merch as well. Support the band. It does really feel like a defining for release for you guys. It's cinematic without being theatrical. I'm fucking loving the release, man. Massive respect for your time. Everyone watching, go grab it, blast it loud. The neighbors going to want to hear it too. Connor, last words, shout outs, thank yous are all on you, my friend.
I just want to thank you very much for having me on the show, man. If you want to grab some physical merch, we have t-shirts, we have CDs, we have all that kind of good stuff over at Dissentience.com. Everybody touts Bandcamp Fridays is, it's the day of the month for all the bands to get 100% of the profits. We have our own website that we run up everything through. So all the money that you spend on the merch goes right to us and then goes right back into more merch for you guys. So if you go buy a CD, buy a shirt, buy a patch, anything, it all goes right back into more cool shit coming your way later. So, and anybody that's checked it out, appreciate it. Anybody that's going to check it out, enjoy it.
Damn straight. Crank it. Cheers, mate.